Welcome, crypto enthusiasts, to the Independent Reserve Podcast.
Nice one. Episode 16 of the Independent Reserve Podcast. A super good one today because last night was the Blockies. Jerome, you were there. Have a go at these bad boys. What do we got? Couple of bit more silverware for, glassware for Crystal, actually, for Independent Reserve. Let's go.
Yeah, congratulations, guys. It was really well deserved, and yeah, you guys are amazing.
Thank you. Laid on a bit thicker. We got last night, so Independent Reserve did pretty well. We got Exchange of the Year and Organisation of the Year, so we're pretty chuffed. And it was a bloody good night too.
It was, yeah. No, I enjoyed it actually. Good start to what's the one of the biggest weeks in crypto in Australia.
All right. So for people who weren't there, we've got to quickly run through it. So I think well done to Decca and Amy Rose for putting on a really good night. I thought Greg was really entertaining. Greg Oakford, shout out. Had a great night. Roasted a few people. I didn't think you went far enough.
No, probably not. I'm actually, so speaking of Greg, we've just signed up to be Upside members. So yep. my office now in Melbourne, the MESFI office is at Upside. So yeah, right. I get to see Greg quite often, and he was very excited to roast some people last night. So he did a good job.
Yeah, no, it was really good. It was really, I thought, obviously not everyone who'll be listening was there, but one of the great things about last night, I thought, was just showed the maturity of the crowd. Adrian, I know, made a point last night talking about how much the shape and look of the crowd had just been from a ragtag bunch of people 11 years ago. And certainly, I think that was my fourth Blockies that I've been to, and it was... obviously yesterday when we're sort of having the Blockies at a new Bitcoin all-time high was pretty. It was a pretty pumped group.
Yeah.
Needless to say, a lot of I told you so's I reckon were flowing around after that, which is good.
It was good. Yeah. No. I did say that we'd talk about Bitcoin to 100K in the podcast. Maybe not this early, but I'm very excited about what is it, 98,900. At this point being all-time high, which is insane to think about.
Yes, Jared, maybe you can keep, if you can keep, you got Bitcoin, maybe, just maybe, while we're chatting, it'll hit 100K. Imagine, that'll be good. We'll catch that forever.
Yeah, we'll have to get the champagne out at that point.
Actually, we have some champagne left over, I think, from our 11th birthday party. So mid shot, if we have to do some editing.
Amazing.
This week, so today when we're recording, I guess we got the Blocky, not the Blockies, we had that last night. Again, good work, Decca, that was a great night. The Oz CryptoCon, Jerome, we've got a party lined up tonight.
We do.
You're looking fresh today. I was very sensible last night as well. Got to stay fresh because we've got a big night again tonight, and then a big weekend. Oz CryptoCon should be one of the, everything's lined up for it. I think they've got sold over 10,000 tickets. Going to be huge. The trains aren't going to strike, so everyone can actually show up.
Is that what happened yesterday, or was it because Melbourneite, if you remember? So I'm not really sure what the striking is going on. Is that happening in Sydney right now?
Yeah, there's a pay dispute, and anyway, they're going to shut down this morning, but they struck a deal last night, so we're good to go.
With the CryptoCon guys.
They knew the CryptoCon was on.
Exactly.
And there was a bunch of crypto enthusiasts in town, and they just couldn't miss their conference.
That's it. And you were talking about the party tonight. I mean, I'm very excited about it. Obviously, we both were in Singapore for Token. And it was just the biggest event, 25,000 people, just massive. And I think there were something like 800 side events. And I remember talking to you about this party, and I was like, I came away from that and thought, CryptoCon in Australia has 10,000 people who go, and they only have 4 side events. So it's just a no-brainer to start actually pushing out some really good side events into this. And so I called you and said, look, I'm thinking about doing a party, and you guys were thinking about doing a party, so we teamed up.
And here we go.
We've got
400 people coming along. It's going to be huge.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it just keeps getting bigger each year. I mean, Token is kind of a good litmus test. It's definitely the largest in Singapore. We talk about it all the time. It's definitely the largest conference sort of in the Southern Hemisphere at least. And to see that getting bigger each year, and to see Oz CryptoCon getting bigger each year, and the guys over at Oz CryptoCon, they're doing really well. And it just shows, it'll be really interesting, I think, to see the crowd and the makeup of the crowd. The industry overall has come a long way from the image of crypto bros and all that kind of stuff. There really is a diverse crowd now, diverse age groups and genders and everything. Because it really is sort of capturing the hearts and minds, I guess, of everyone. And there's so much, I know we're going to chat about MEZFI and the work you're doing. It's celebrated. Obviously, a lot of people in there crypto for the quick gains, but they stay kind of for the revolution in the tech and how it's now gaining. As an industry, they, Amy Rose pointed this out last night. Was, she looked in the crowd and said, for an industry that has, I guess, it's had to battle through a lot of misconceptions, and people have had to stick together. People have had to grind it out. People have had to go through the same conversation with the same kind of old ways of thinking time and time again. There's been, everyone's had to battle really hard to get this point.
Totally.
And, one, I won't mention who, but someone asked me last night, I said, how many of these people were around sort of last cycle? Because, I was thinking, well, actually, there's a lot of guys who are in there and they've been through some tough times. There's a few businesses there. They've been around for more than the last cycle. So they've been around a couple of cycles. Yeah, businesses have gone, right to the wall, and they've had to recapitalize, and they've said, no, we're going to stick with this. And it would have been so easy to quit it so many times with so many people doubting and
100%.
And sort of saying, hey, it's too hard. But, well done to everyone in that room, particularly for really battling through, and now they get to enjoy a bit of, some good times. Again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, what I think, I can't remember who it was on Twitter who said they called it the traditional 4-year bull run. Post-halving bull run, which it seems like it is a tradition these days, and it somehow it happens the same way, where the halving happens 6 months later. You've got a presidential election. In lead up to the election itself, there's a bit of up and down, and then between election day and inauguration, it's just up only. Yeah. And it's the same way this year. Yeah. So I think it's been, like you said, lean times for a few years. Especially there were the really hard times of FTX, of Terra Luna. These things that really shook the foundations of the industry to the core. These really huge, like Bernie Madoff level events. Yeah. And the industry could have just died and rolled over, but instead, we all rolled up our sleeves and got stuck in, and it's more legitimate than ever. And we've got the crypto president now, who's going to be in, and I think VARA has been finalized between the last bull run and this bull run. Yep.
That's the UAE.
The UAE regulations exactly. Yep. In Dubai. We'll be actually in Dubai next month for the Global Blockchain Show. Exhibiting over there, so that'll be fun. And there's lots of stuff going on in Dubai. It's obviously Token also happens in Dubai, and I don't know, I haven't been to the Token one. The Dubai one. I know it was underwater. Yeah. This year it was a bit crazy.
Yeah, I was on the last episode. I was telling how we got caught with our pants down in the rain. Not literally, but pretty much. It was bad. Yeah. And actually, one thing I didn't mention yesterday, but we look. Not to recap the whole story, but we got caught in the rain through our own sort of stupidity, and we were in waist deep water within 45 minutes of when the flood came through, and we had to travel. We had to sort of march our way through, and it was only afterwards we realised kind of how sort of dangerous it really was, because it wasn't so much that the water was waist high, but in Dubai, later on we realised that there was across the UAE, unfortunately, it was 7 or 8, maybe even more people died through electrocution because they don't have overhead power. They had underground power. So if the water had seeped into some underground cabling, then and short whatever had happened, it was made some electrified patches, and people stepped in it and died. So,
gosh,
I didn't realize. We kind of thought it was a little bit funny at the time, but it was actually really dangerous.
It was very dangerous. I was
happy to be here, and it was, of course, it was lightning as well. And I was like, I remember at the time thinking, oh, geez, we're in waist high water in water. Yeah, with lightning. That's.
Yeah, no, it's very scary. I saw some videos from it. I just thought, wow, this is is this real? This is crazy. And for this weekend, when all these people were in Dubai, it was nuts.
Yeah, it was incredible. But yes, there's lots going on over there. Lots happening in Singapore, and we're kind of hopeful. There's still a lot happening in Australia. And you look around at the people there, and a lot of people there, a lot of the businesses in that room. They could have made decisions to sort of move to locations, and a lot of Australian businesses have unfortunately moved to locations like, Dubai or Singapore or these other jurisdictions where it's just been a lot easier for them to operate. I'm not saying it's necessarily better there, but it's a real shame that Australia loses talent and capital inflows because we've just kind of went, oh, I don't know what to do. It's just this attitude. It's just sort of taken as... it's not that, I guess, apathy, I guess, is probably a good word for it. There's no it's not sort of hostile towards the industry, or maybe you could make an argument there has been some hostility, but I don't feel it's generally that hostile. It's more just apathy. We'll work it out eventually. And that's a real shame because there's a lot happening now. But, like we've said before, we've got the attitude in the US has certainly changed, and hopefully that means we have a real some impetus to actually try to make some stuff happen.
Yeah, totally. I think apathy is probably the right word. I mean, look, we are, as Australians, we are apathetic as a country, you know, to most things. It really takes a lot to get us out of bed about any particular thing, I would think. Mining somehow is, you know, has always been our thing. But yeah, in terms of financial services, we once, at one time, you know, we were seen as being quite a forefront, a leader in financial services regulation, but not really anymore. That being said, you know, I had one conversation last night with someone who was saying, and you know, this was an interesting different take, that you know, that we basically, that VARA, Singapore, UK, they're all you know, almost, I wouldn't say over-regulating, but you know, with the necessity of getting financial licenses and, you know, really stringent rules and regulations with every single crypto business, it makes it a lot harder to innovate in those kinds of places, which I completely and 100% sympathize with. You know, my product, you know, MEZFI, it's taken us 2.5 years to get to launch, and it's a financial product. And so, you know, we've needed to go through all of those very stringent regulations. As a crypto business, generally speaking, you know, you can spin up a protocol within, you know, 6 months or whatever, get started and get going. That's not to say that it's safe and it's the right way to do it, but there's definitely a fine line, I think, to walk between over-regulation and regulation. And I think that, you know, so to the point of the person that I was speaking to last night, again, I won't name names, but he was saying that, you know, he'd like if Australia would wait for America to, you know, go and regulate, do what they're going to do, and then watch and see what happens, and then maybe potentially follow America instead of the UK and what have you. Yeah,
okay, interesting. Yeah, I guess there's it's going to always be shades of grey. There's never going to be a perfect solution. And I just, broadly speaking, I can tell you from conversations I've had with some household names in the financial services sort of industry, and they kind of say, well, look, you know, we want to do something. Okay, we accept that it's going mainstream, and there's demand for this. People want tokens, and people want to participate in crypto and DeFi and all these kinds of cool things that go along with it. But you know, without the regulation, we just don't want to stick our head above the trenches and be shot at. And so, you know, they literally say, oh, when regulation comes, we're doing it. So they're getting ready. The appetite's there, and you know, that sort of next wave of, I guess, those regulated entities and those larger businesses that do have, you know, they're ready to go. Yep. They're here.
Are you talking about banks, or are you talking about?
No, I'm talking more like, you know, like people who want to offer, like, you know, trading on apps, like traditional, like equities trading and this type of stuff on apps, and you know, people want to trade. People want to. They're providing online broking or something, and they want to provide online sort of crypto trading. These are the types of things that they're ready to. They want to do it, but they're just sort of saying it's still such a space that we're kind of just waiting for, and everyone's kind of waiting for this elusive thing. I don't think when we get regulation, it's going to be perfect, but if people know the rules, if people just know the rules, and people are like, okay, maybe the rules aren't perfect, but we know what they are and we can play by them. Most of the industry will be like, hey, it's going to be a little extra cost, but we're happy to roll up the sleeves and do the work, because now, you know, our market, people who can raise capital from, people who are going to participate, is now much broader. Interesting
though, like you would think, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but you know, for companies such as yours that have been around for 15 years, is it?
Not quite.
11 years.
2013,
yeah, 11 years. You know, it's almost, I mean, we won't say a good thing, but you know, the traditional trading houses haven't been, you know, sort of able to, or don't have the risk appetite, so to speak, to get into it. I mean, it's almost your benefit in some ways, because you don't have to compete with these guys, these behemoths. You know, we won't name names, but there's a lot of them out there that, you know, run, whether it's commodities trading or futures trading platforms or whatever. I mean, you guys have had 11 years now to perfect, so to speak, the you know, the way that crypto works in terms of trading. I don't even know if say I mean, I know Pepperstone, for instance, they do have some products, but very, very minimal, and you can't buy and sell crypto on it. Obviously, it's just a CFD. But if those kinds of guys were to start with it, I don't think it would necessarily cannibalize what you guys are doing. And I think
it would add to it would be advantageous for us, and it's a good partnership for us, and we can work with them to, Independent Reserve definitely provides some, I guess, the critical infrastructure for exchange, in Australia, because there's not a lot of natural liquidity, ports. Most liquidity globally is in USD, which doesn't help Australian consumers when, all our liquidity is in AUD.
Totally. And I'll just plug it out and, plug it out there. We've been looking at potentially, using Independent Reserve as a potential liquidity for what we're doing as well, for, larger trades and what have you. So, there's definitely a lot of, and I know that your Singapore business is going massive in that respect.
Yeah,
in terms of providing liquidity for Singapore dollars and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Singapore's been a great. It was a slow start for us, and we like Singapore. I'm sure, hopefully, everyone knows we have a Singapore business as well. It's going really well. Lysenko, one of the co-founders, moved there, and there's been an undoubted LP effect. So since he's been over there, it's been all one-way traffic, just straight up. So he's done a fantastic job. And he's a one-man hurricane, and I think everyone in Singapore already knows him. Like, I think he's probably the most well-known man in Singapore. For being there for 2 years is pretty impressive. But over there's been it's just been a really good experience for us, and it's a different type of market. And I can see one of the things I'd probably say, Singapore is definitely a financial hub, probably more so than Australia. So there's so much capital that flows through there.
For sure.
And you can kind of see a little bit ahead of what's happening in Australia in terms of the flow. And so much money throughout Asia is moving around now on crypto rails, because it's simply easier, faster, quicker, all that kind of stuff. And it's just gaining traction year on year. And it's really good that we can capture some of that.
So in terms of like the movement of money again, excuse me, another conversation I had last night was with someone who said, in terms of like global payments, why wouldn't you just use Wise, for instance, instead of crypto, because it's cheaper or what have you? So what do you say to that? I mean, I use crypto only, so I'm sort of playing devil's advocate to a degree.
Look, there's lots of fintech players, but they're still fundamentally reliant on, I guess, traditional banking rails. And one thing that we've learned, and crypto's proven itself to be really true, is like it's access 24/7. It's 100% reliable. You know what I mean? If you've got access to it, you've got access to the internet. You've got access to a bank in your account. And for a lot of people in Australia, we just don't really think about it so much, because everyone in Australia has access to pretty good banking services.
That's true.
But there is a global demand. Like if you're living in certain countries where the local currency is not as reliable as AUD, there is a real demand for USD. And so how do you if you're living somewhere in Southeast Asia, you don't have reliable access to USD banking.
No.
Or if you're beholden to, I'm not saying Wise is expensive or anything like that, but let's say using one of these fintech providers, it's the only one you kind of have access to in your jurisdiction for whatever reason, maybe someone else, then you're beholden to that one institution, and you're beholden to their fees and their structures and their service schedules, and they can decide. Again, they still have the challenge of, if they decide not to give you a service, you don't have it. Whereas the great thing about crypto is it doesn't discriminate. You got access to the internet, you got access to financial inclusivity, and that is a good thing for humanity. I think. I don't think anyone's going to argue against that.
Absolutely not. I won't. You won't find me arguing about that. That's for sure.
Right, and this is the thing, right? It's fundamentally. We had Christian Westerland Wigstrom from Maneuver, and he's got a great business obviously over at Maneuver, and but he's done a lot of work in sort of in Africa and financially. He understands the I guess the principles of having access to financial services and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and it's just. I think it's just really, really hard to argue against the idea that if you've got access to the internet, and internet banks people, now the internet is banking people in a way, right? With this native cryptocurrency, which is the native token money of the internet. You got access to the internet. So El Salvador is probably a great example. So many more people can get access to banking. Once the take up, we'll see, right? But it's a pretty powerful idea, I think. Yeah.
Totally. Speaking of, excuse me, El Salvador, and they've got obviously reserve currency, alternative reserve currency of Bitcoin. The other place, shall we say, call it a place, a company that has reserve currencies, Bitcoin, is obviously MicroStrategy's. And I'm not sure if you saw MicroStrategy's recent purchase. 1.5 billion.
He's gone big.
Bitcoin at 88,000, I think it was.
Yeah.
Which just seems like from the outset, and I mean, like I'm an up only guy. I'm all about crypto. It seems like, wow, you buy 1.5 billion at 88,000, you've got to have that is like some serious confidence.
Right, yeah. He doesn't mix his words, right? When he talks, he's very certain. He's really done the thinking and come to his own conclusions, and he's really to back it. And he's backing it with a lot.
Seriously. Yeah, no, it's an interesting and different. I almost feel like he's, in a way, and maybe this is not the kind of thing to talk about on the podcast, but I feel like it's interesting to a degree. He's kind of the new Warren Buffett in a way.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, if you ever heard Warren Buffett talk, the reason that he believes that he's made the kind of, apart from stock picking, of course, the reason that he believes he's made the returns for investors that he has is because he's an LLC. He's a public company. He's not a fund where they run 2%, fees every single year. I think they ran a model where if he'd had, 2%, 2 and 20 fees, which is what they do in the US, 2% management fee and 20% carry above a high water mark. I think he would have made something like, I don't know how many, trillions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars less for his investors over a period of time.
Yeah, the compounding effect.
Yeah, so the compounding effect of that has resulted in what, it's such a unique perspective as a manager, which is essentially what he is, to do. And Michael Saylor has very much come upon something which is unique. He lends money against shares of MicroStrategies and then buys Bitcoin with it. It's like it's a crazy idea, but it's worked.
It's worked. He looks like the smartest guy in the universe.
He does. He really does.
And maybe he is. Maybe he isn't. Everyone else is just starting to catch on. But like anything else, I mean, I remember when he first came on the scene, and he was just this guy. I mean, he came on pretty quickly, but he was lampooned and he was ridiculed, and and lots of people questioned him, and no one's questioning him now. Of course, I guess that's the thing in market cycles. Maybe we've just hit 100K over the thing, and we can say he did it. But he had to show some real conviction, and I guess the great thing about him doing something like that is there's a lot of other people in the US, and we see this time and time again at every level, people going, I was wrong, I've got to reconsider, it's not too late. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You still got that early vibe, right? Which is, really positive.
Yeah, 100%. The I was wrong, you were right thing is very real, though. I had a normie friend of mine. I imagine that everyone who watches this podcast is probably crypto native, so they know what a normie is. It's kind of like a muggle if you watch Harry Potter. But a normie friend of mine, that I've been having lunch with prior to the election, he's like, "Oh, what do you think happens if when the election?" I'm like, "If Trump wins, it's going to 100." Yeah. And then he sent me a text message, "You were right." Like 3 days ago. So you get that a lot in Bitcoin and crypto.
We'll be in a few years' time. I guess our smugness will look kind of odd, and everyone will think it's over again. But right now, everyone in crypto is enjoying the smug.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good time to be alive. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, we've got to talk about MEZFI then, because we could talk about the crypto industry. Well, we will come back to it, but we've got to talk about MEZFI. Tell us a little about it. Sort of what made you decide to start it? I mean, you've been a property guy for a long time, and so the MEZ in MEZFI is probably pretty easy to understand. Mezzanine finance, but
mezzanine finance. Well, not everyone knows what mezzanine finance is. When I explain it, I say it's for a construction project specifically for us, property construction. The bank lends a particular amount of money, and that's based on the risk and leverage amount that they want in that project. And then, if you need more money to build your project, you need gap funding, which comes from mezzanine financiers. Excuse me. And so that's what mezzanine finance is. Essentially, it's a second mortgage. So it's you come in rank behind the first mortgagee. So if the project goes bust, you get your money after the first mortgagee, so it's more risky than taking a first mortgage, but you get a corresponding uptick in the interest payments that you can command. So say a first mortgage is 7 to 8% on a property development project, the mezzanine component would be 15%, thereabouts. So it's a very attractive risk-reward strategy in terms of investment. And, most people ask me, why would you relate mezzanine finance with crypto? And really, for me, the reason was that a couple of years ago, when that stuff happened, Terra Luna, FTX, BlockFi, Celsius, things sort of happen where it was like, okay, so yield products are essentially financial services, and they need to be regulated. They need to have custody, proper custody. They need to have fund structures or whatever it is. They need to have financial services licenses. That was all very clear. And so, me being a property guy, mezzanine finance investor of the time, and having done fund services when I was younger, I was also an entrepreneur for a number of years. And a crypto investor of a few years. At that point, I sort of came all together. My wife and I were sort of chatting about a few different things, and then we just came up together with this idea about mezzanine financing and everything. And specifically, I think it's just a great yield strategy because it is high yielding, and it's it's proven, tried and true. It has very clear risk profiles, which even though it is a podcast, and even though we are talking about we're not talking about financial advice, I probably have to say that if you do want to invest in MESFI, you have to look at the PDS, the TMD, go get financial advice, go get investment advice, legal advice, accounting advice, and all investments can go to zero. That is the truth. But at the same time, I think when I'm looking at all this stuff, mezzanine financing as an investment class it's used by high net worth individuals. Usually you need $500,000 or more to invest in it. And with our platform and the MEZFI Fund 1, which is now launched as of last week, you need a minimum of $5,000 to invest.
Yeah, and you can contribute in crypto.
You can, you can contribute in USDC. Yep. We will build out the rest of the crypto rails for different other coins, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's USDT, over time. USDC just seemed like a really good stable coin. I mean, that's a bit stupid, but it is what it is. Thing to jump into at the beginning, especially with Circle backing it the way that they do. At the time, USDT had its sort of worries, is that they're not as transparent in terms of their reserves. So I thought USDC is a really good one to start with.
Great. And how's it going? Have you found it? What's been the journey so far in terms of, I guess, client acquisition and growth of the fund?
Yeah. So, the fund literally launched in the last week. So we've done a lot of work over the last year or so, talking to investors, and we've built up a good client list. In terms of pre-commitments, we have quite a few, but really now we're going to see the pedal hit the metal. We're going to be going out there CryptoCon weekend and talking to as many people as we can to get people in the door of the fund over the next 4 months. Until our first close, we're going to just get as many commitments as we can. And so, it's been an amazing journey of talking to people. Usually mezzanine finance is the biggest hurdle. People are like, what is mezzanine finance? I don't know what this is. But it's also a good leading question. We had this conversation about CryptoCon this year and marketing collateral. And I thought, last year I must have told 300-400 people, what is mezzanine finance? And I had to tell them. And I thought to myself, should I put like a graphic up on the wall or something and say, what is mezzanine finance? And this is what it is. But we had this conversation. It was like, well, it's kind of a good leading question for people. So from that perspective, we ended up deciding not to and allowing people to still ask us that question.
As good engagement.
What is mezzanine finance? Exactly.
Right. So that's good, man. It's glad to hear it. And have you found, in those conversations, traditional investors who understand MEZFI, I guess they're always going to get it. Have they sort of asked you a question about, well, why the crypto bit? Like, what was the benefit of that? Yeah.
They have asked me that question, and usually I say to them, well, there's two things. So we also tokenize on Ethereum with ERC-721 tokens. So you receive an ERC-721 with a limited edition piece of artwork on the Ethereum blockchain with each $5,000 investment in the fund. And what we tell normie investors is it's about transparency and information effectively, because you can't, this is not a secondary market tradable product. It's a what's the word for it? An illiquid investment. It's a 3-year fund, closed-ended fund. But it's about, it's transparency, information. And what that's about is that we are able, using the blockchain, using metadata, to detail the kinds of investments that we make, or the exact investments, that we make in the fund. And so you log into your page, you see your token, and you can actually read on the token the investments that have been made, the timeline of those investments. And so it's a much more transparent way than this traditional way where you get your quarterly report from your fund manager. And that's it. It's much more engaging. You're able to sort of be involved in the process. We use Discord. We token gate things. So it's a much more interactive experience. And you get a limited edition piece of artwork as well as part of your investment.
Yeah, nice. It's and are you able to receive? So I know you've been in token. You've been in Singapore. You've been in Dubai. Because you can now, I guess, getting back to that question before about why use international money transfer, because you can receive USDC now kind of from anyone, any jurisdictions, anywhere around the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people outside of the crypto world, they're surprised to hear, like, why, well, who's like, the question I ever get was like, who are your clients? And I'm like, and I have to explain to them, it's not just individuals who are looking to trade and 25-year-old guys on a laptop or something, which is, that sort of, but we're moving away from that perception. But that's the kind of line of questioning I'm getting. When I explain to them, there's lots of businesses like yours, businesses like I mentioned them yesterday, but the guys from IMF, they when they raise money for their protocol and stuff, I mean, it's an international market, because it's like, if anyone who's got access to the internet is a potential investor in their projects, right?
100%.
And that's something that I don't think that's a real paradigm shift. I think it's a real opportunity that, like a lot of businesses, you have to go to Australia. You can only raise in Australian dollars or whatever now. Just for the fact that we have this new technology means that the opportunity has become it's international opportunity for expansion. Raising capital is always there, but now it's just a much simpler, seamless opportunity. And do you know what I mean? And
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
And and you get a lot of people, like a younger generation who has crypto, to go, well, now I can participate in traditional investments like mezzanine finance, which you mentioned before was previously only really offerable to in limited circles and high net wealth investors and people who had the connection, not just an internet connection. Yeah. Right. And again, I think that's a really powerful idea. It's a I don't know if it's liberalization or democratization, I don't know what we call it, but it's an opening up of the opportunity set that was previously only available to a few people.
Chatting to a few different people, one of the things that I think is very unique about crypto is that it's one of the only financial services. Well, it's not a financial service currently, but it's one of the only money making kind of services where its inception was retail. So it was developed with the idea of the little guy being able to access the transfer of money in a way without banking rails, etc. And so the thing I love about crypto is exactly what you're talking about. It's that every single crypto evolution will always have everyday investors in mind, because that's the genesis of it. It's the raison d'être, for lack of a better word. Fancy French word, but it's the reason for being for crypto, which is not the case for a lot of other things, for banking, for funds management, for investment management, for all these things. And so the cypherpunks went out, the crypto guys. When something like a CBDC comes along, and they try to make crypto into an institutional thing. Unfortunately, it inevitably fails, because crypto is about the everyday person.
Yeah, absolutely. And the network effect, it's fascinating, right? That's fundamentally the success of crypto is that network effect that you see, like the adoption of various everything from Bitcoin, which is the original thing and still the king, to meme coins, right? They've got the community, they've got this
totally.
It's just incredible, and it's a people first thing. And we often talk about. I guess, what's the word? Where you prognosticate? Is that the word? Where you kind of
I think so.
Guessing, and quick Google search on that if I just use the word completely out of context. But
no, prognosticate, I think is right. Yeah,
just sitting around and just sort of going, well, hey, let's think about where this thing can go, and think about some big ideas about what it could be, right? And like one of the points we always talk about is a push factor, is it a pull factor? And what I mean by that is like, you're a crypto native guy now, and you know that, like, for example, if someone says, "Hey, I want to buy some meme coins on Stacks or something," you know automatically the process you need to go through. You're like, well, if I want to buy some Stacks, is that ERC compatible? Or how do I get the Stacks? Okay. Yep. Maybe it's not an exchange, but I know I can buy some stable coins. I can flip it to a DEX.
I know all that stuff,
right?
Yes.
And I know I need to get. I don't know a wallet that's Stacks compatible. I got to get myself a wallet. But you know the steps, right? You know what to do, and you're completely comfortable in it, and you can do that 1,000 times over for 1,000.
I wasn't a few years ago, but yeah, it does. Right. Eventually, you do get comfortable with all that stuff,
right? And you go, and someone said to me, the other day in the office, I'm like, well, what meme coins are you on? They're like, it's all on Stacks these days. You got to get some Peanut, and you got to get some Flat Earth. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but and it sounds ridiculous. Because I know to someone who's new to the industry, but I'm like, okay, I'm going to throw $20 at it or whatever. I don't care. And maybe a little 1,000x, maybe we'll go to zero. Sometimes both. But it's kind of the fun of it. And that's kind of the fun element to it. But you know instinctively what to do. But for someone who hasn't done it before, and for them, they're going, I'm still nervous about buying Bitcoin on exchange. And I don't know what to do with it. I'm just buying it. That's still a novel experience. You know, regardless, right? And so you've got the people who know it, the people who don't, and the gap, it seems, is probably actually getting not necessarily closer. It's probably getting further away. The expertise to do it, and the people who just don't know. Well,
as it gets bigger, it gets more complex and gets harder. Yeah,
right. And so the question I'm always asking people is like, does the crypto world have to kind of modify its way of going about things to bring more people on, or does the rest of the world just kind of have to catch up or be left behind? And maybe it's which way does it need to go to adopt more people? Maybe it's better both, but maybe there's a right answer. I don't know.
I will unequivocally say the right answer is that Bitcoin and crypto need to be more user friendly in order to get more people on board, because the people of the world are never going to change themselves to be able to fit into a box that some random magic internet money guys said this is how you have to do things.
Okay, that's definitive.
There is no world in which user experience comes at the basically if anyone thought that way, you would literally be sitting there. UX guys would be out of business because out of a job because they wouldn't exist. You wouldn't need to, and there would be no thinking about how customer flow works on websites. There would be no thinking about the amount of clicks that someone makes on a website before they buy happens. All of those things happen because the average person needs things made easier for them to do things in order to continue, in order to start, in order to get comfortable with things. If the gap is too big, it's like the thing? It's like a ladder, right? If you have a ladder, and someone said this to me, I can't remember who it was, but if you have a ladder and the steps are like this far between, you can't quite get there, and then there's the ladder there might be a real good prize at the top, but if the steps are too big, it's kind of hard to get there. But if you lower the steps and you make them much closer together, then it's going to be, it'll take longer to get there potentially, but you will get to the top.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, it may not be that, that DEXs and all these sorts of things change, but there might be interim platforms. I mean, that's, partly MEZFI is the idea for me anyway, is that it's a, normie friendly kind of environment where you can get yourself your first DeFi wallet. We use Magic Wallet for email signups, and you have a DeFi wallet. Even if you don't really know what a DeFi wallet is, you'll have a wallet. You'll have tokens sitting in that wallet. That doesn't mean you need to do anything with them, but you'll be interacting with a smart contract. You'll have to make a signature. These are little things which people are like, which once people say, I become familiar with that, then you can start moving into other things. And I think, those interim middle pieces have to be, better and better and better and more able to bring people in.
Yeah, sure. I've got to play devil's advocate, and I've got to bring up a Nap Enjoyer quote, because if I don't, Jared will be like, talk about Nap Enjoyer with anyone. And he said to us, he goes, and I asked him a very similar question, because just to sort of talk about it and just sort of see the views. He goes, well, I don't, you know what? To be honest, I don't think we need to change. I don't think we have to, I don't think we have to conform to anything other than what we think where it should go, because like all the people who don't get it will soon be dead. I'm like, That's also a valid point, I guess.
It is a valid point. That's not to say, though, that every single person who's of a particular age gets crypto. Although, obviously, the uptick in and I don't know what the stats are, but I know like under 20s or under 30s, the number of people who own crypto is vast, like really big. In the US, I think it's like 80%. Something like that, some crazy number.
You actually, it's funny enough because I was chatting, we have the Independent Reserve Crypto Index and we measure this, and a few other people have got some stats. Ben Ritchie from Bamboo was talking about this. He's got stats as well. You know, the real interest is coming from, what do you say, 30 to the 55s.
Is that right?
Not so much the younger people, it's that kind of mid group. And that definitely reflects what we've seen. There's been a real shift, you know. Everyone, like as I said, this annoying perception that's just young guys who don't know what they're doing, betting on monkey JPEGs and meme coins. There's always going to be an element of that because it's fun, right? But like the actual serious business and a lot of the growth has come in not in that group. It's in that more well-to-do kind of 40+ range.
Interesting.
They've been the fastest growing segment. Like they're really sort of coming on and getting involved. And certainly, from my experience, because in the exchange we have a pretty broad range of people. We have everything from, I guess, the first-time user who's 18 through to people in their 60s and 70s who are really adept now at crypto. They have really good conversations. They really know how to work it. And so we always took, maybe a view that going, if someone is a little bit older, maybe they don't get technology. It's definitely, what do you call it? It's just an assumption that we make, which is kind of wrong sometimes, and they really know their stuff. And so the diversity and the level of knowledge has, in the last 4 years that I've been with the exchange, has really improved. Not just at the younger level where you kind of assume people get it, but just across the spectrum. So, I think, it has been a broad, the acceptance is definitely broad, and the level of expertise has been growing without necessarily, where am I going with this? Like without necessarily having to do too much different to what they're already doing. Yeah,
understood. I think, it's potentially you're right. And I guess my point really was that it's not so much that the DEXs have to change. It's not so much that, the more complex things have to change. It's just that as you grow the middle ground, which obviously Independent Reserve has, a normal app, a trading app, which is, centralized exchanges are generally pretty easy. You just do KYC, you do your KYC, you jump on and you can buy and sell stuff. And obviously you guys have bitcoin.com.au as well. I'm not sure are we allowed to say that you guys that you're affiliated? Yes. Okay. But yeah, bitcoin.com.au, and that's and that's an even easier experience again. And I think that's super important to have these kinds of really easy experiential. Easy experiences, exactly. To get you onboarded, and then you can grow to the other stuff.
Yeah, look, I think the ease of use and fitting in the world is a critical element. You can't neglect it overall, because people want to have a simple experience, and it shows that it's not really as scary and dangerous and underworldy as sometimes the perception is. So when people come and they're like, oh, this is actually pretty straightforward. It feels just like buying a regular asset class now, and that's a good thing for the industry overall because it helps it gain acceptance and all that kind of stuff.
Totally. And the one thing I'll say is that in our industry, so the democratizing of investment strategies, my thing has always been for mezzanine finance and other kinds of investment strategies that we're going to democratize, because it starts with mezzanine finance and it goes to other high yielding, more risky investment strategies that but fundamentally, and excuse me, in today's day and age, you're talking about you have an internet you have internet access, you have crypto. It's the same kind of thing. You have internet access, you have information. And so I think, the reason why investment strategies used to be exclusive, apart from the amount of money that you needed to put into these things, was because ASIC and other regulators thought that everyday investors need to be protected. But fundamentally, the protection that's required is due to a lack of information and a lack of knowledge. But with the internet and the ability to actually do your own research on the internet these days, I mean, on YouTube, how many people can DIY make a billy cart these days, or like a go-kart or something, because they can see on YouTube. It's the same thing with financial services, with risks. You can read, you can understand. I mean, people find out things like, again, this normie mate of mine who bought into Pepe. I said, don't do it, mate. It was like 0.000017, And I was like, look, it's right at all-time high. Just don't do it. And so he bought in at that time. He dollar cost average down, and then it doubled the other day. And I'm like, oh man, I look stupid now. He looks really smart. Yeah. But and he's telling me things that I wouldn't even think about in terms of cycles and everything. And it's because of the amount of information and knowledge there is out there. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a story about a guy named Aaron Schwartz. I don't know if you've heard the story. It's kind of sad, actually. He was a prodigious kind of young guy and IT guy, and he was a really smart kid. And he was from a really young age, I guess he got picked up as being really talented, really gifted kind of young kid, particularly on IT stuff. And he was doing work for some project. I can't remember the details at MIT.
Okay.
And he kind of come across with the idea that he goes, you know what? There's JSTOR. So, they have that centralized database, which all the academic articles are sort of capturing that. And he's like, oh, it's kind of, I guess his view is like, it's kind of shit that, there's all this amazing information that's, should be really part of the world's, it should be accessible to everyone, because like information is power, and like the more people who can access this, because he's like, well, the only people who can access this is people who have like universities have paid for it and all this kind of stuff. And I get that there's copyright and all this kind of stuff, but like all this information could be really good for humanity if the right people see the right research. And so he went about going, well, I've got access to it. I'm allowed to download it as much as I want, and there's nothing that says I can't share that information. So he went and basically created like a mirror website where he just went and downloaded heaps and heaps and heaps of information.
Wow.
Created like a mirror store online where anyone can go and get downloaded for free. And it's awesome, right? From a libertarian, like information kind of thing, right?
Point of view, yeah.
But there's the legalities of it, and I get all that. And basically what happened was the feds or whatever in the US decided to make an example of him and wanted to like charge him with like theft, or I guess of some kind. And he's like, well, what am I stealing? Knowledge? Like what? Like this is all like academic articles, and they're all academic articles. They're all published freely, and I've got them, and why can't I share them? Anyway, they decided to make an example of him, and the poor young fella, I guess, the sad part of the story is that he ended up committing suicide because the feds were threatening him, going, cooperate, plead guilty or whatever, or we're going to give you life in prison or something. I can't remember. It was really severe.
Gosh.
And he fought it, and he's like, hang on. And anyway, but I guess he couldn't handle the pressure and whatnot. Unfortunately, like a prodigious young talent ended up taking his own life, right, which is the sad part of it. But I don't know, again, I can't remember the exact details, but as a result of him posting all this extra information online, there's like this example where like a young researcher in Poland who managed to like get access to some of the information that he'd put up there that he wouldn't have otherwise accessed. Then he himself had like a real breakthrough in like, I think it was like to do with heart medication or something like
Amazing.
that, which then became like a really revolutionary like tech. And it's like the point, right? If you share this information with enough people and the right people get the information, and that information should be free, and that you can have, humans can do wonderful things with it, but we have this tendency to really close off opportunity and close off knowledge, and that's not a good thing for, right? And I guess this is the point that you're making right now. It's like if we can, like crypto has this thing, is it's non-jurisdictional. Doesn't live in any one place. But let's say, for example, we extrapolate that and say, well, financial inclusion. Some people in, I don't know, Indonesia or somewhere in a poor island have internet, but they don't have great banking services, but now they've got access to USD banking as opposed to sort of maybe a local currency which isn't so strong, or like people subject to hyperinflation and this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you go, well, we might be able to save some people economically, which allows them to go and do some great things for humanity.
It's true.
There's, it can lead to some, like just that sharing, that freedom, that openness of information can lead to some really, really positive outcomes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for individuals and humanity.
Totally agree with you.
I don't know, it's getting maybe a bit airy-fairy, but like I think, we're onto it. Hey, Gary Gensler has been fired. No, wait, is that what it said?
Gary Gensler has resigned.
Has resigned.
There you go.
Effective this morning.
Effective this morning. There's some breaking news.
That's crazy because, we've been reading that was potentially going to be on the cards, and obviously Donald Trump the president can't fire the head of the SEC.
The writing is on the wall.
There is a lot of pressure, and it's happened. He's faltered.
Oh, there you go. There's some breaking news. We didn't hit 100K, but Gary Gensler fired the number one enemy for crypto with the hostile stand. I must admit, I kind of feel as a crypto guy, I feel for Gary, but like, without the clear regulation, like all regulators around the world, I guess their job, at least on the face of it, is to enforce the laws as they stand.
Absolutely.
And those laws, whether they don't make the laws and whether they like them or not, their job is to do it.
They don't make the laws, but they definitely interpret the laws, and they choose the things to target. And so I would be interested in the next few hours, just putting it out there, what's going to happen in the crypto markets. I think if that's not the catalyst to hit 100K, I don't know what will be. So
the think of the memes. Gary Gensler resigns. Crypto hits 100k. Bitcoin hits 100k USD. Imagine that.
Seriously, I wonder if there's going to be some Sol tokens that get spun up. Gensler fired or something like that.
There is already a bunch of meme coins pumping on Sol. Right, we have to jump into 20 questions. So
Right.
we've got yesterday. We try this out. We'll see how we go. We had a great time with Ben yesterday. We're going to have a crack at 20 questions.
Sounds good.
I've got the list here. All right. If we get stuck on any, there's one question which is an absolute doozy. But this time I'll be able to get it out there. This is Jared's favourite.
No worries.
Okay. So let's go through. Let's get to know a little bit about Jerome. The first video game you ever played.
Mario.
Mario.
Yeah.
On what console?
NES.
Yes. Here we go. Yes.
Original. Yeah.
The original. What's your Bitcoin all-time high price prediction for this cycle?
This cycle, well, I've always thought that 100k was where it was going to get to, and then I didn't know where it was going to go from there. So, but I think it's going to get higher than that now. So about someone last night said 124,000. So I'm going to say 124,000.
Oh, too bearish. Too bearish. We double from here. Come on. We'll see. All right. If you had to go all in on one meme coin, which one would you choose?
Pepe.
Your mate was right. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Absolutely.
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 It's outrageous. I can't believe anyone who says no just like stern talking to. What future technology are you most excited about?
Oh, I mean, it has to be AI. It's an obvious one, but it's the multitude of potential there is just incredible.
And it's hard to argue, isn't it? What do you prefer, dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Yeah. Everyone says dogs. But hey, Jared, we know this because like meme coins, there's only like one meme coin and there's hundreds of them.
There's one cat coin.
Sorry, yeah,
Grumpy.
Top 20.
Grumpy.
I
Yeah.
don't know, isn't it woman yelling at cat or
Yeah, no, Grumpy's not in the top 20, that's for sure. But it's it was
All the
it's
rest
all
of it.
dog coins. Yeah.
It's all dog coins. People love dogs. Crypto loves dogs. Each cycle has a narrative from DeFi to NFT to memes. Other than Trump pump, what are the narratives for this bull run?
RWAs and DePIN.
All right. What is your idea of the perfect holiday?
Mate, well, look, I like Europe, London. I like going to cities and seeing culture, and yeah, that's usually, going to London, going to Paris, doing something like that. That's usually my idea of the perfect holiday.
You think glorious. Where would you have ended up if you weren't successful in the current role in industry?
Well, I used to be in coffee, so it's probably would have been coffee. So I used to have a cafe, wholesale coffee company, and if I didn't do a financial services, commerce degree and get back into financial services, I would still be doing coffee.
All right, coffee. Okay, then that's a good one for the next one. Hit us with your best random fact.
My best random fact. Okay, I think axolotls, Mexican walking fish, are the only fish that have feet.
Okay, there you go. All right, this one we've got to get into here. So, so imagine this. You're sleeping in your bed one night and suddenly an older, heavily scarred version of you bursts through in ball of lighting and says, "Don't invest in Skynet coin," before fading away into nothing. Do you take your own advice or do you make an appointment with a shrink?
I definitely take my own advice. Absolutely. Growing up with Terminator, I 100% take my own advice.
You got to take your own advice. If someone's bothered to travel back in time,
Seriously.
you got to take the advice.
You take your own advice. Absolutely.
You'd have to take the advice. What's the best thing about Gen Z?
The best thing about Gen Z is that they are very curious about things. So even though we may disagree about certain politics and certain other things, but I respect how deeply they think about things.
Okay. And so we'll follow that up with what's the worst thing about Gen Z?
I think what I just said what the worst thing about Gen Z is.
Do you go the checkout check or the self-service register?
If there's someone there, check out every time.
Check it every time?
Every time.
Really? Like the old-fashioned service?
Yep.
Okay, what's one product, service, or company that should have done amazingly well but was a major disappointment?
Oh, that's a really interesting question,
I
actually.
feel like that's a tough one.
That's a really tough one, but no, that's a really interesting question. A company that should have done well that's been a major disappointment. I mean, Betamax, obviously, and the same thing. The what's it, Laserdiscs? I mean, like
Laserdiscs.
Yeah, they should have been a massive success, and they were just a massive flop.
Yeah. Okay. Why do you think that is?
Well, because they were obviously too expensive, and they just didn't capture people's attention in the same and imagination the same way that VCRs, videos did. Betamax versus what's the other name? What's the
VHS?
VHS, yeah, VHS. I think was a smaller cassette, and I think that's the same. Like Laserdiscs was huge, and they were kind of annoying. So, people just didn't take off. I knew a lot of people who had them, but they just didn't take off the same way that VHS did.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then DVDs obviously killed everything. So
yeah,
and Blu-ray, yes, Blu-ray. And Blu-ray was just crap, and then it just got killed by streaming. So yeah.
Name a movie that deserves a remake.
A movie that deserves a remake. I would have said Blade Runner, but that got remade. I would have said The Lion King, but that got remade. I would have said Terminator, but that's had about 10 sequels. One movie that I love, The Fox and the Hound.
The Fox and the Hound.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Because, there's all these like kids movies that get remade and remade and remade. The Fox and the Hound was one of those kids films that I watched when I was a kid. I loved it, and, it hasn't been remade, but I feel like it's a timeless story. That or Bambi. one of the two.
Actually, speaking about random facts, what I had a presentation or an interview with a dude back from he'd been around in Disney since like right from the get go, and he was saying that it's for kids animation stuff, obviously for like the family movies, like Bambi and Lion King, and he'd been involved in all this kind of stuff. And he said, someone asked him, well, why do you think it's been successful? He goes, I've always had a little bit of trouble with it. He goes, the reason those movies are so successful with kids is that we knew that the single most like traumatic thing a child can go through is the death of a parent, and so the
parents always die.
Parents always die, and that's how they hook the kids in, because the kids went on a genuine emotional roller coaster.
That is so funny,
right? They always have a happy, positive ending, but there's always some tragedy in the middle where they lose a parent, and kids are just like instinct, like just
they get hooked.
They're hooked because like the parents are so important in their life, and that was their magic. That was their secret formula was killing a parent off.
If you look at
emotionally manipulating the poor little kiddies.
But it's true.
Batman's origin story.
It is but it's every single film requires tension, and then whatever the middle one is, and then resolution. And that's just everything. It's a good story. It's everything. So,
but the tension doesn't have to be a dead parent.
It doesn't. It doesn't. That's true. Nice.
Oh, and so finally, a movie that should never have been remade.
A movie that should never have been remade. Okay. Well, look, I didn't like the Lion King remake, so I will say Lion King, even though I said it should have been remade, but it was remade badly. So.
Okay, the original one. Yeah, okay. I haven't seen the second
Aladdin,
one.
actually. Aladdin. That is a terrible remake.
Yes. The original with Robin Williams.
Yeah, seriously.
That was so good.
That was so good. That was just like, that's my childhood right there.
Yeah, wasn't it? Shows everyone's age around here.
Yeah.
I tried to buy some of those. It's funny because like you forget how far technology moves. When you watched Aladdin, it was just cartoons were just that was the
that was the pinnacle. Yeah,
I tried to show it to my kids, and they're like, "What is this?"
Really?
Like
my
just
kids
give
love
the story a go. Robin Williams is so funny.
My kids love it. Yeah, but I've been showing them that since they were very young, so they're like used to it. But I think maybe if I showed it to them again these days, they wouldn't like it so much.
It's funny, like the emotional attachment you get. Like when I was a young boy, like Ninja Turtles first came out, and I loved Ninja Turtles, and not to get too nostalgic, but like the new Ninja Turtles, obviously the 4 of them or whatever, and I got I had Leonardo. Parents, obviously I liked Leonardo with the name, but like I really wanted all 4. My parents were never going to buy me all 4, but now you can buy all 4 of them for like $30 or something. And I was like, I'm going to buy them. I'm giving my son, and he's going to be amazing. He took one look. He's like, what?
What is this?
I'm not touching them. He's scared to even look at him. Anyway, so maybe not all childhood memories translate.
No, definitely not. But there's a lot of films that Yeah, that have been remade well. A lot of them that haven't been remade well, but yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, so arguably one of the most famous guitar riffs of all time. You're probably thinking. I don't even have to say it. What would you say it is?
Stairway to Heaven. Oh, that's
close.
no, but that's sorry. That's a solo. The guitar riffs. Smoke on the Water.
Smoke on the Water.
Yeah, Smoke on the Water.
Someone asked him where he came up with the idea, and it's I don't know if you call it an inversion, but he's taken a passage from dun, 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 and he's played it backwards.
Oh,
That is
wow.
That is Smoke on the Water backwards. So yeah, mine and yeah, you can see the clip of the guys Rich Blackmore saying it.
Is that is that's a different one?
It's look, go find out. You have to go check out the YouTube clip where he does a. That's Beethoven. That's Beethoven. He's played it backwards, and he freely admits it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right?
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Love it.
my random Beethoven fact.
That's the random fact. So we're going to go back to a company that should have done better than it did.
Yes,
that's what we were. That's what I was.
We've gone places with this question.
Exactly, and I still can't figure it out. But I know. Oh no, sorry, no, I did say that. That was VHS
Guilty
and.
pleasure.
No, guilty pleasure. I was never answering. No, there was something else that we said. There was another question that I said come back to me on.
Yeah, right. I'll pull them up.
Yeah, it was a company that should have done better than it did. I think that was
Betamax.
I think that was a
the
product.
trend.
It was a
What's
trend. Yeah,
what's
trend
one
that you
trend
can't get behind. Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple. Cycling is my big one. That's my big one. Like everyone was like suddenly got into Lycra and started cycling, and I was like, what is this? I'm not buying a $5,000 bike. Thank you very much.
I thought you were going to say something like TikTok dances or something. But
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, I was going through when my daughter had like a birthday party to go to, one of those flip out places.
Yeah.
And to me, I guess it's a generational thing. You're getting old because, like, to me, the idea of putting the camera on in public and filming myself do anything is, kind of horrifying.
Crazy.
I mean, here we are doing a podcast, I guess it's.
Yeah, well,
but like doing
it's
a
a bit
dance or like
different.
doing whatever.
Yeah.
And they just didn't mind. I guess it's just a thing. Like, there was a couple girls, and they were just like doing a TikTok dance in the middle of it and filming it and being like, it's good on them. But maybe it's just the dancing I can't get behind.
Yeah, it's a bit. I don't know. It's also like it's also the location. It's like in your bedroom and all that sort of stuff. It's a bit weird, but and yeah. Let's not. I'm not going to talk about it.
It's a generational thing.
It's a generational thing. It's weird.
Yeah, it's better than sitting around doing nothing, I guess.
Indeed.
Like me right now.
Nice
So
one.
good on them. Good on 'em. That's my favorite thing about Gen Z.
Nice.
TikTok trends I can't get behind.
Nice one, mate.
Yeah, nice. All right, Jerome. Thanks, man. I think we've run about an hour and a half. We've had some great chats. So thanks for coming along.
No, thanks, mate. I've had a great time and really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to CryptoCon weekend.
Yeah. We'll see you there. Absolutely.
All right. Cheers.
See you, man.